Session 3, DM Commentary. Well, another good session this evening. We had a lot of good exploration of not only the world, but also the various characters. Started off kind of quiet with our intrepid doctor going to see a new patient and perhaps exploring his morality or his willingness to compromise his morality and values by potentially treating a Sabbat. Shortly thereafter, everyone went to sleep and woke up, and Vincent got to meet his sire in a very lovely seascape scene. There was lots of heartfelt discussion, or not really, but regardless, good moment, I thought, for the character to explore, and perfect timing, honestly, with the natural one for the wake up. But his experience was very much in contrast to the experience that Whitey had meeting his sire out in Connecticut, which was not his first task that morning or in the game. The first job, of course, was the perpetual quest for ovulating females, and the poor, now emotionally abused pimp who has to continually supply somehow. I mean, how many women do you have to go through in a month to try and keep that together? It's got to be quite the logistical challenge, I think, for any typical pimp to handle. It's more like a employment agency's level of work. But regardless, as I said, Whitey had a good meeting with his sire, and it was definitely a contrast between those two characters and how they see their sire and are apparently perceived by them. Along my notes here to discuss was the also Dr. Clausen's visit to the family who the family of the person that the group killed in the hospital, and by group I mean basically the two doctors or three doctors and two doctors and Whitey. Their collective decision to sacrifice a soul in exchange for the sheriff maybe paid off, maybe didn't, depending upon different people's perspectives. But regardless, Dr. Clausen is following through with his promise, as apparently Whitey did, to create some sort of method of taking care of this woman's family. Fortunately, the people that Chris met doesn't seem to be in terrible need of aid at this time. So that's good in a way that they probably won't need constant babysitting. But, it definitely puts a wrinkle in maybe whatever either of them were trying to really get out of it, in terms of, there's not going to be this perpetual need for aid and some debt, presumably, that they can absolve themselves of. Dr. Quinn continues the quest to absolve himself in the eyes of the Tremere. And so reached out and made some moves, which was his kind of theme this evening, I think, as we saw later, and terms of trying to call in the cavalry to get some assistance for Vincent. And this, again, another evening of contrast and potential character growth. When Quinn saw Vincent and the crew getting attacked before, he drove off without so much as a how do you do. And this time, of course, he's gone out of his way now to try and save Vincent. There was a lovely call with the coterie member of Samantha's, and he talked about how I would, give you a heads up if you needed help. I think that may have been a pretty good lie on his part. Perhaps it was intentional, who knows. But regardless, Quinn is out there making moves, which is good because, of course, with the travel to the Sire, we didn't have Whitey's normal influence to the same degree with wheeling and dealing and getting things to happen. Also, I want to thank DJ for criticizing my voice acting. That's very nice of him to point out that I have no talent. And lastly, a good shout out for Will for calling Mason in game and bringing him in Whether or not the actual player gets to join us, who knows, but this way we now have the coterie all together for the first time, and, well, except for Whitey, but does he really count? And it will be fun to see if these guys do get into combat, how their things work out, or if there is or is not synergy. So, looking forward to this next session.